Recording now. All right. There we go. Cool. So what's up, guys? This is episode 5 of the Big Ben StrongCast. I'm here today with Coach Al from McClay. Coach, can you give me just a little bit of a background, how long you've been coaching, where you're at right now?
I got into McClay in 1999, but we started in 2000. I started with my experience with shot and discus.
Okay.
And then from there, it took over to 2004, where they opened up a new part of the weight room section off the new gymnasium they built. And that allowed me to do part-time work with student athletes, which then catapulted into a full-time position for roughly been doing this for about 16 years now altogether.
As the strength and conditioning coach?
Yes. And that was grades, that still is grades 7 through 12.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. It's really cool. It's really cool to have like a middle school, high school combo, because you get to actually have a big hand in their long-term athletic development.
That's correct.
Not just from like, you're not trying to fix other people's mistakes the whole time, which is
That's correct.
Kind of a nightmare sometimes. Okay, so 20 years that you've been in the strength and conditioning realm in some kind. How did you get started as an athlete? Was that as a
as an athlete? Well, my desire was to play football in the 7th grade.
Okay.
And to go further beyond that, my uncle was the one that got me into strength training.
Okay.
We used to watch all the old CBS specials from they come out once a year, the strongman competitions. And I was like 7 or 8 years of age.
Yeah. Yep.
And then I witnessed my uncle one time pick up a side of a car, and that just blew my mind.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be like Uncle George.
Right.
And then he would come home from his Los Angeles getaway. He was in a church and come home for a week or two. And when he came home, I was always blown away by how big he was. 6'4", 300 pounds.
Oh, man.
His chest is bigger than Arnold Schwarzenegger's. He had a 61 in his chest.
That's crazy.
And now bodybuilding, this is a big, strong guy.
Right.
So that went further into the interest, and then looking through muscle magazines and doing all the things back in the late 70s to early 80s, and then had a really strong desire when I was 13. So out of 7th grade going into 8th, I started in that summer, 1985, and I never looked back. Mm-hmm. So I've got a little over 30 years now of, 35, oh my gosh, years of this kind of stuff. And I always had the desire to be strong more than anything,
right,
because of the inspiration.
Mm-hmm.
And then I really wanted to be big also.
Mm-hmm.
So we started to go into all that from my 8th grade, 9th grade, 10th grade years. And that football is what really made me understand how much more dominant I was, with the belief, at least, that I could do anything I wanted to do on the field. And I had no idea what football was about. I just was told to join, so I did.
Right.
But even at 8th grade, I was squatting 315 for 5 reps.
How much did you weigh at the time? What do you think?
I'm going to think maybe about 165 to 170 as an 8th grader.
Yeah.
I had a mustache. And then 9th grade, I got as big as 185. And then it just kept on going. My senior year, I ended up weighing about 215. And I'm only 5'9" and 3/4.
Right.
So, but I was squatting 575. I was benching 315. It wasn't nothing big, but my squats were always my go-to. And I learned that the lower body leg strength was key to most anything that I did as an athlete. Right. So I did the football, and I did shot and discus in high school. I loved every minute of it. Mm-hmm. Then I proceeded to go into college, and just carried right over in college. And I became a walk-on at Florida State in 1993. And, back up. My first year in college was at Herkimer County Community College up in New York State. And then I did shot, discus, and javelin.
Okay.
I couldn't compete with those guys in the shot and discus because they were much bigger than me. But the javelin I picked up pretty good. And again, I just got so good at it because of my pure raw strength and my explosion that I had. Yeah. And then I came to FSU and did all that stuff. And then I continued. And when I was done with college, just kept on continuing with it. And then I come to McClay, and that's kind of where I'm at right now. So in my younger years, the influence was football and then shot and discus, and everything just big improvement in my athletic ability. And back in the 80s, we didn't do Olympic lifting.
Right. It was not big then.
No. And nobody knew about it. So we did powerlifting and bodybuilding together. And even that by itself got the athlete just dominant, physical. And we were trained by upstate New York's got tons of powerlifters. Mm-hmm. And we were trained by several older guys. And Mark Calliger, he was my strength coach too for a while. Vito Carbone was in the beginning, then Mark came in the end. And he was big into everything. So we learned a lot from these guys. And like anything that we become cross-breeded of who taught us. Right. And we continue to learn and build upon that.
Oh, yeah.
Really awesome experience.
Oh, and that's such a great example of how you come to where you're at now with how you train your athletes in strength and conditioning is it, you find the things that you learned as an athlete that worked really well. And you also learn the things that didn't work really well and make sure not to do that with the athletes that you do. So with that being said, what do you think is the biggest difference from how you trained as an athlete to how you train your athletes as a coach?
Biggest difference is what I know.
Okay.
And then when you have the knowledge, you put it through the application.
Sure.
And then you have the knowledge through what you hear in the world of every sport and how it's changed and revolutionized every sport out there, even basketball, even baseball. Mm-hmm. Baseball was one of the last holdouts. They didn't believe in doing this, doing that. And now they're starting to catch in. That's why you have all these issues. They're still a little bit behind.
Still like, nope, we're not going to press. We don't want to use our arms. We don't want to do anything.
And there is truth to that, especially when they have games over and over and over. Right. But I find ways where I can still do some of that with no issues. And that's my experiment. Yeah. So to go back to the question again, I have noticed the changes over the year through these athletes out there just becoming enormous. Mm-hmm. And you ask the question, what's going on? Why? And then you examine their workouts. So you learn from this. So back in my day to now, completely different, but nothing's changed as far as the foundation goes. Right. You just add more to the foundation. Mm-hmm. Your squats are always going to be your squats, your DLs and your but then all this Olympic lifting really started to catapult really big, especially in the 90s. Yeah. And now it's it. Yeah. And down the south, that is it. Yeah. Up in the north, it's still an issue. I know for a fact. I talk to my high school coaches still. Yeah. They still don't do the power cleans. Yeah. And that's my opinion is why the athletes are so much more successful. Mm-hmm. Back to your question again, the changes. Yeah. The knowledge, understanding, then the application. Those are the things that I've definitely changed. And the application is definitely different too. Right. Oh my gosh. You learn so much.
Okay. Yeah. I think that's a really interesting thing. Just that the foundation really is the same. Like it's not much has developed as far as how training was in the 80s versus now. It's more just tweaked and modified a little bit, but nothing really is any different. It's still movement is movement. You need to get strong. You need to be big, and that's pretty much it.
Exactly.
So I want to get to some of these questions because these are good.
Okay.
I love this one because I'm a huge fan of gym stories. What is the most impressive feat of strength you've ever witnessed?
It was, I ever witnessed the most impressive feat of strength. I had to go back because I've been to a lot of gyms. Remember I was at Gold's Gym and I saw one of the guys down there doing a seated military press of 315 behind the head. That was pretty, that was impressive. Yeah. And up to now, the most recent one was, last year, there was that girl named Big Roo. Yeah. And she was a female ninth grader. And she bench pressed, I think, 355 last year.
She did 375 this year.
Yeah, I heard. I saw that in person. I was blown away by it because you don't see that. And then there was also, that was Union High School.
I want to go back to that one because we didn't really say this, but she is a ninth grade girl.
Now she's 10th.
10th grade girl who bench pressed 375.
That was impressive. And that was a one-time deal. I knew I wasn't going to see much of that. So you just don't see that amongst the high school, let alone high school girls, let alone ninth graders. Right. And then Union County had a young man last year who's going to be a senior or is now this year. I saw him bench 500 and something pounds in the high school level. I've never witnessed that. Yeah. But the 400 marks were always impressive. So most recently, those were extremely impressive. And Other feats of strength, I mean, you see some strong people, but there were some things that definitely stood out. The young man and young woman stood out, and then that one guy at Gold's Gym stood out. One more man, which amongst Tallahassee is pretty famous, Phil Arnold, and he played football, I believe, in 1977 at FSU. He was impressive back in the mid-'90s. He was probably pushing into his late 40s, and he was still benching 365 for 5 reps. He had massive hamstrings on him. He's still around today. I believe he's in his 70s. I see him once in a while, but an impressive strength guy.
Is he still training?
Yeah, he's over to Premier.
Yeah.
That was a year ago. I haven't seen him since, and he was so much of an older man at the time that drew my attention because as a younger man at my time, my 20s, like, wow, that guy's impressive. Yeah. So many impressive feats, but those are like some highlights.
Sure. That kind of leads us into the next question really well, which is I had one of my clients who's in her 70s. She wanted to know what tips you have for people who are getting into strength training and how to continue making progress even as you age.
Okay.
Right.
Starting out on a younger basis, we'll start as much as age 11 to 12. That's when I began. You have to build their confidence up. You have to befriend them. Sure. You can't scare them away at a young age because they can become very intimidated by older people that have knowledge or big beards or no hair or something. It goes to young minds. And then you work with them and you actually hold their hand at a young age and you encourage them and you befriend them. And if you got to know their ins and out, what's going through at a young age and their mindset. And always the biggest thing at a young age is to encourage them to continue to press on. Fast forward through high school. And it becomes a little bit more different. They know who you are. They're excited about things. But then you have more things in the social life. Girlfriend, boyfriend issues, potential issues at the family, bad grades going on, stress going on. Yeah. Stress is the biggest thing that can distract these young people, anybody really, but the young age, that's a progressive thing. Yeah. I'm just talking now on the mindset, the cognitive mindset of to influence somebody. Then you go into the collegiate level, a little more serious. It's a little more easier. And they're a little more established. And at that level, I noticed that if you still have it, you're probably going to maintain it the rest of your life. Then you go into middle age. Then you have distractions of husband and wife, maybe, kids, family issues, bills. You can't get to the gym because you have those social issues that play a factor on progression. And then you fast forward into maybe retirement. Then you have the age syndrome. This hurts, that hurts, the other thing hurts. But you have to still find ways to go lighter, longer rehab, which I'm experiencing now between whatever it might be, and continue to motivate yourself by watching videos, bringing yourself around other people that are still doing it, even younger than you, because that brings back a memory base or encourages you to continue to press on. But at the age of this lady was, you said in her 60s? 70s. Yeah. You got to go things slower and easier and progress. And you watch videos out there. You have many 70 and 80-year-olds that are still training heavy, cautiously. Yeah. And that is how you can bust through your strength plateaus. Starts in the mind first. Everything's in the mind first. Then comes the physical things, the cognitive thing, but more physical. And you got to have proper rest between your workouts, proper rest between your sets if you're older. Yeah. All that plays into strength plateaus.
Is there, do you find a, there it is. Do you find a frequent, like, is there a difference in frequency in training as you get older? Do you not train as much? Do you think it's important to still train?
Yes. Well, the example with me is I've been reducing my number of body part breakdowns just one a day now. Okay. And I'm still having a great result. And my strength is doing really well. However, that might change in 5 more years, where I might have to go back to a 2-a-day thing. Now, I have not experienced with 2 body parts a day in a long time because I'm a strength trainer. It can get a little difficult for me with all my hours are going, all my activities going. So I see great progression and great results at my age, going with the change up as opposed to doing 2 body parts in a day. And then, of course, my eating is all changed. My sleeping patterns have all changed. And all that's definitely changed as far as the frequency goes. My level of training might be the intensity of training and that frequency has come down a little tiny bit more, and I still plug away, but there are moments I speed up and I sweat, and moments I go heavier and go slower.
Sure.
And so based upon the frequency, now I don't have a written program.
Sure.
I come in knowing what I'm going to do, and my body tells me what that motion should be or exercise should be, but I continue to move the body in some way.
Is that something you think that younger athletes can actually take into account? Like you can have kind of a rough idea of what the program's going to be, what you're going to do that day, but how you're going to go about that, you kind of let your body tell you.
Yeah.
Is that something you think younger athletes need to start to learn?
I tell the young athletes right now, they have a program written for them. They got to do everything in order.
Okay.
The way it's done.
Okay.
However, if there is a situation where they feel a tweak or a strange sensation, stop. Yeah. And then if they have nobody around to tell them, I teach them, you got to stop, obey the body, and try something else out. If that hurts, try different widths with your feet. Toes out, toes straight, grips different, wider. And I tell them that at the young age now, but I definitely tell them stay to a workout that you have put together because I went through all that. And there are days that you maybe don't want to do a heavy squat. Suck it up.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
And some of my best squat days were days that I didn't want to show up.
Oh, yeah.
And I tell the kids this, and some of the kids are, oh yeah, I went through that same sensation. And so the frequency has changed up, and these younger folks, I know what they need at their age and what they're going to need as I progress through. And as I got older, I asked some of the older people that are in their 70s to questions because I feed off of that also.
Sure. Yeah, that's a good one. I really enjoy working with older athletes right now. I think it's interesting that powerlifting is becoming kind of a popular sport with masters athletes. Like here in Tallahassee, we've got the Capital City Games, and they compete in the bench press and the deadlift. And I was astounded with how many people came and competed last year, it's coming up again soon.
That's great.
Yeah. Okay. So next question. What's your favorite? So I
Squat.
think you said, squat. Is that still your favorite?
Oh yeah. I've always loved the squat.
What's your best squat at right now?
Right now?
Right now, yeah.
See, I did a 405 for a double. That was weighing 195-ish.
And how old are you?
I'm 49 and a half.
49 and a half.
I did 315 for 13 reps, and I was going to do 20 last week, but then I hurt my shoulder benching.
Yeah.
So I backed up a little bit on that. But I'll say 405 for a double. Probably could get a triple. I'm probably about 450 right now.
Okay.
And yeah.
And what was your all-time best squat?
700.
700?
At 190.
Holy crap.
Yeah.
Now is this, are we talking like?
Not an official. It was at let me think here. It was at FSU's gym. I remember very well.
Yeah.
It was game on.
Yeah.
I knew I felt it, and I had been already doing 605 for 5 reps.
Right.
On a regular basis. Yeah.
That's
and of course it was semi-equipped. I used knee wraps, but didn't use a lifting suit. No, just knee wraps and a belt. So it was semi-equipped. And then that one day, it was in 1995 in that area. I weighed 190 pounds and went down there, and it was at the Leach Center.
Yeah.
And we had about 20 guys in the back room, and that bar was bending. It was bending. Yeah. I went down and up with it, and would it have been an official competition? Probably not. Yeah. But I would say 3/4 of the way down and up. And that was my best squat ever. My best reps ever were 500 pounds for 15. and then this is all natural. There's no drugs involved in this.
This is crazy.
Yeah, so the inspiration, again, from my uncle, and then all of my heavy training throughout my younger life. I was poor.
Right.
I had no money to buy the extra goodies that even back then were something big.
Yeah.
Once in a while, some protein, muscle mass, not much, but mostly food, calorie intake, and heavy lifting. Yeah. Everything from dumbbell curls had to be heavy. Yeah. And we grew up back in the 90s and late 80s with a bunch of strong guys in our high school. Right. And in high school, I did a 575 squat, only to get beat by a teammate, Jerry Sullivan, at 630. And it wasn't an official squat,
Yeah.
but we moved the weight, and it was relatively decent enough for them to say, good lift.
Yeah.
And that was all that. Was it?
I am going to lose my mind.
And that was a good lift when we went through high school. So squats are always my best.
Mm-hmm.
And again, what it did for the overall leg strength was phenomenal.
Right.
And I like the unknown when something's on your back.
Yeah.
We say rear squats, not front squats,
Right.
which I love front squats too, but rear squats, I just love that feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the preparation of getting that weight on your back, and it's game on.
Right.
And I enjoy the bench. I enjoy the power cleans and deadlifts, but squats, even today, it's so challenging. Your heart races.
Yeah.
You feel that bar and you get really intense.
Right.
And most people hate squats.
I am one of those. I hate squats. I've hated squats for kind of a while, pretty much for as long as I can remember. And really just like this past 2 weeks, I've been wanting to do squats a lot. I've been squatting every day. Just because it feels good right now, and I'm like craving to do squats, so I figured better take advantage of it while I can.
That's a good point, because you also brought that up. I've gone through my waves of not liking it, not liking it.
Yeah.
But I always stayed to the point of always squatting.
Yeah.
Always squatting. Gosh, it was just so fun. And yes, I miss those heavy days.
Yeah.
And I plan on competing one more meet when I get 50 someplace, and I'll see what I can do. I at least get a 5 in the squat. Well, it's 501 the kilograms.
Okay.
And then who knows on deadlift. I'm pretty strong on DLs. I don't train as much, but I can still pull pretty decent. My bench was always difficult because I have long arms for a short guy. So I paused 2 weeks ago, 295.
Okay, there you go.
So if I can get 3 to 320, I'll be happy with that.
Yeah.
Shoulders have definitely taken a beating over the years.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, let's go next question. No, I don't like that one. Who's the craziest lifter you've ever seen? Just animal athlete,
man.
wouldn't stop.
I was in high school. We competed in the YMCA bench press meets.
Okay.
And
I remember those.
We would go, and that's all we could do. We didn't have the lifting up there in New York State, but we had to compete in them. We did a few push-pull meets, deadlifting and just benching.
Yep.
But we did the YMCA every year, and this one guy, his name was Crazy Joe. And he was probably pushing mid-30s at the time. We were just 18 and 17.
Yeah.
And we knew he was there, and we would always teams would go first. And then we were sitting in the crowd, and we could hear this guy yelling in the back.
Oh, yeah.
And definitely getting some open hand slaps.
Yeah.
And he would come out just yelling, and he had ammonia salts broken off and stuffed up his nostrils. And he's yelling like this with his hands. Ah! And we're out with the whole place is lit up.
Yeah.
And one time, unfortunately, he had 450 on there. He got buried with it, so it didn't work. But the intensity was always entertaining.
Yeah.
And that was probably the most intense guy that I have ever witnessed in the gym, scene.
Yeah.
And there were some characters over the years, but Crazy Joe was definitely the crazy guy.
I think that tops it. Craziest lifter, Crazy Joe. That's it.
Smelling salts in your nostrils.
Oh man, I don't know how somebody.
I've
done smelling salts one time, and it was like one of the worst experiences I've ever felt.
Same here.
Liquids coming out of my face.
I did it back in 1989, and they told me it was Mike McCree, and he says, "Bert, go ahead and try this out." So I had 550 for the deadlift, and I'm like, ready, pick it open.
Yeah.
And then I went down, and I started seeing white stars.
Right.
I was passed out. I stopped doing that stuff.
Nope.
I never smelled it ever again.
Yeah, I'm not a fan. And deadlift's like the only one you can do it on too. You can't even do it on the bench because you're gonna start crying and it's just back in your eyes. No, not a fan. Okay, let's go. Ooh, this one's a good one. What's the most common injury that you see, and what's the best way to prevent it?
Most common injury that I see is lower back, 100%. And then how to prevent it? Well, it comes with the strengthening of the core, and it comes with proper spine alignment, first of all. And even that's not 100%. But in what I do and how many kids are trained in thousands of hours and thousands of kids, definitely is technique. You have to start with the ground base of basically chest up, shoulders slightly back, keeping your spine with a slight curve in it, and tightening the abs as you're doing a lifting or a pulling. Most of the injuries can be prevented from that point. And then you then have a belt. You can use a belt, of course. Sure. And And like I said, sometimes you just are going to pull that back out. That seems to be the number one injury I've seen with kids. Mm-hmm. Then you have sometimes some shoulder injuries here or there, but in all my years up here doing it, back was the biggest thing, and it usually comes from deadlifting.
Yeah,
I've seen that. So all of my exercises, I don't max out a lot on deadlifts, and then I sat back and I observed, and it definitely worked. Yeah. There wasn't a big amount of injuries, and then we cut back more and more. I haven't had a back issue on DL maybe a year and a half to almost 2 years. Yeah. 2 years ago, I had one in here. I'm like, well, we have to cut back on deadlifts.
That's kind of a hot topic right now, actually, because Robert Oberst, the strongman guy, he was on Joe Rogan talking about he doesn't really train heavy deadlifts anymore. And he says, especially in sport, he thinks that athletes shouldn't do heavy deadlifts. Mm-hmm. I think he might have said deadlifts at all, but really that's kind of a hot topic. I think I've seen the same thing as like almost nobody, like unless you're a competitive power lifter, like unless you compete in the sport of deadlift, there's not really much of a point because the risk to reward is so high.
Yes. We still do them. I still do them here, but we haven't had an injury in a long, long time. So I keep my percentages with deadlift at about 70 to 80, roughly. And then sometimes, maybe like once every other month, I might say, let's do a PR for 1 rep and see, and we're good. Yeah. And you got to be observant to that. DLs are fun because you're just pulling it, but where a lot of kids look at the videos online, their backs are rounded. Yeah. And they get encouraged to do that. That's not the right neutral spine position to take when you're pulling anything off the ground. You don't want to run the back. Yeah. Chest should be up and out, lock in, and with your legs pull. Mm-hmm. All those Olympians that do that, not one of them around their back on the pull. Nope. Not one.
Not a single one.
And then in the powerlifting world, you see that, and it's accepted. Right. And that's their choice. But when you open up that spine and you have a disc bulging out, you can herniate it, you can rupture it. If you do that, you're in deep, deep trouble. Yep. So the long-range goal is how long you want to be actively involved in it. I think if you moderate it a little bit and careful, as you said, Brian, DLs are great. I don't do them much at my age, but I can still pull near 500 pounds in a heartbeat. Wow. And I just don't, and even my back gets tight after that. I can still squat heavy, no back issues. Yeah. None. Yeah.
It always seems that kind of athletes are either a squat natural athlete or a deadlift natural athlete, if that makes sense.
That makes sense totally.
And so I can't figure out really why. Maybe it's just a anatomy thing, just an anatomy
thing. And then followed by the desire. Yeah. But anatomy does dictate a lot of what you can do.
That's a good point. Yeah. Desire, the fear behind the movement too, I think.
Oh my goodness. A lot of them. Yes. I've seen it.
Okay, so let's go. This is a good one. What do you think? What do you want the next strength and conditioning coach to know about training here?
The next one would be to, number one, don't scare the kids off. Okay. Number one, befriend them.
What do you mean by that?
Well, you come in too hyper and too intense and in their face, they will either resist you or run from you. Yeah. Very few people will actually enjoy that. Right. So I have seen over the years that you have to build your program around your personalities that you're dealing with. Some guys I can get in their face, even girls, and yell at them. Some guys I have to come down a cut halfway, and some guys I can't do anything to because they will run. Mm-hmm. So as a strength trainer, the goal and the new one coming in would be to save them, to keep them into the game all their life. Right. If they have a bad experience with you one time, you may ruin that person because they really had a bad experience. Yeah. And back in our days, we were just, suck it up kind of days. Yeah. And now it's changed a little bit over the years. So don't get the kids soft. Right. And don't befriend them to where you're allowing them to walk all over you. You've got to find that fine line. Yeah. So the new guy had to find that fine line, or the new person, to how they can save the kid. And I always use the analogy, what are they going to be like in 40 more years from now? Mm-hmm. And I want everybody to be working out. That's my goal. Right. And so the new guy, new girl had to come in with goal setting, short-term, medium goal, and long-term goal. Mm-hmm. And all of those things. So all those things are a contributing factor to having a person come in starting off with just that.
Mm-hmm.
So winning over the people, number one.
Right.
Number two, goal setting.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have goal setting. And I use Bigger, Faster, Stronger. Great company. They are amazing. And they have books that I buy, and they have goals in those books that we know how to record every week, every second week, third and fourth, and it recycles back over again.
Okay.
So they know what their PR attempts are for every set rep.
Nice. At
whatever percentage it is.
Yeah.
So they record and just abbreviate it.
Yeah.
6, 60, 7, 70, 8, 80.
Right.
Some kids go 8.5.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's great. So you have to dictate as a new guy coming in or a new person coming in to set goals and then encourage them.
Mm-hmm.
And some of the most difficult moments in my life are when you have a person that doesn't want to be pushed.
Right.
And then you got to learn how to get into that head. Some people, you just are not going to ever change. Not ever.
You almost have to kind of make them think it's their idea to want to continue, like want to work hard at it.
That's correct.
You know,
and I've had that also over the years.
Yeah.
Now each person gets different. So the new person has to understand, you know, their background, where they're coming from.
Yeah.
Are there any family issues?
Right.
Right. Are there any, like I said, girlfriend, boyfriend issues, things of that nature going on? If there are, you've got to pull them through.
Yeah.
And we've had many deaths over the past 20 years up here with parents dying or something.
Yeah.
And you got to get to them so that they don't go on a deep end and talk to them.
Right.
And each person is different as they approach a challenge. Me, I've always been in your face.
Mm-hmm.
But this person may actually run away and decide that she wants to do drugs or alcohol as their scapegoat,
right.
or just become lazy, start eating too much, or maybe not eating at all because they're too depressed.
Right.
And the strength trainer has to know all these things to get them back on the same path, to get them back into the weight room, because this place here is a stress reliever. Mm-hmm. This place here is a mental builder.
Right.
I say this place, but all of them around the world, every gym in the universe, if there are any in the universe, is a place where the human can go and detox their mind, detox their aggravations of the day, and you beat up the weights, and you come out of that experience. Yeah. The problems will still be there, but you'll be able to think it through a lot more simply.
You'll be able to. It doesn't remove the problems, but it does remove your emotional baggage about it, and it allows you to kind of just confront it a lot better. That's
the first thing that I knew in 10th grade.
Yeah.
That's when I first started picking that up. I said, "I'm not going to talk to you."
Yeah.
She said something bad was going on.
Yeah.
I sat down on the couch. She goes, "What's going on?" I said, "I want you to know how much I love weightlifting." She's like, "Okay." And she thought it was going to be some massive question.
Yeah.
I go, "No, I just want you to know I've been going through a lot of stress as a 10th grader."
Yeah.
She goes, "What kind of stress?" I said, "I can't tell you. But I'm going through some stress." Yeah. And I found out that when I go to the weight room, I really pound those weights. Yeah. I feel so much better. And I come out and I feel like I can think about the task a lot easier. I tell all the kids this. Mm-hmm. So your main question again, the new person coming in, you've got to be able to communicate with each of them the same way and sometimes different. Right. And never embarrass. Mm-hmm. Even though sometimes I do if they can take it. Right. If they're lying or if they're cheating sets and reps, I'll make them known. Uh-huh. But after that, I'll call them to myself. Yeah. And I'll say, "I love you. Stop. Yeah. Don't do that again." Mm-hmm. And that's just how I work. Yeah. And the personality of the strength trainer will also dictate the way that the current groups are going. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. That actually leads into this next one really well. What's the biggest difference between the kids when you started here versus now?
Oh my goodness. Well, the truth is when I first came here, they were soft. McLean School, you might know, might not know, is a private school. So most of the kids have got a nice background where they've got everything going for them, which is not bad. But when you then push them through a challenge, they're like, "I got to vacuum? What? Right. I've got to do this, that." So in the beginning, I didn't know all this, and I had to learn this. And I started learning by backing up more and looking at how it was affecting each of these kids. And I had a handful that would always buy into this. Mm-hmm. And I had more than many handfuls that it became a struggle because they didn't want to show up, or they were skipping, or they were cutting sets of reps.
Right.
To fast forward today, oh my goodness. And it carries over to the success of the programs that we have. Football, for example. Our best year was this year because we had athletes, yes, but we had athletes that were really working out in the weight room.
They were bought in.
Numbers were, I take numbers. I've got numbers and data since 2004. And the data is off the wall for this year.
Yeah.
We had a middle linebacker squat 505 pounds. Other middle linebacker was squatting 460 pounds.
Yeah.
And that's just, there.
Mm-hmm.
And those numbers indicate how well they're going to play.
Yeah.
Yes, but they have to be athletic to make those numbers work. Anybody knows that.
100%.
So how it has changed is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
The kids, I might have 25, I would say, kids that really want this badly.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be doing a documentary with one of my athletes coming up because he had an astounding thing happen this year with him getting bigger, faster, and stronger. In all my 20 years, his numbers were the best ever. And I'm going to put that out there. Maybe I'll tag your name then, and I'll let him talk. And I'm going to have an interview live with him and his parents about what they've seen, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And the difference is amazing. At this school, it was a very slow progress. Now, public schools will be different because they come from a hard knocks atmosphere for the most part. And most young men, especially, know that their gateway into college is going to come through sports.
Yeah.
So they're going to be willing to work harder. And that's the truth. So these young kids up here have bought into it really, really well.
Yeah.
And I'm just amazed at this year's progression.
Yeah.
That I've seen a number of kids. This year I didn't have any eye rolls.
Yeah. That's
and
awesome.
and when I push them with the conditioning, it's really tough.
Yeah.
It was a really nice. It was a really nice year.
Yeah.
And lacrosse now is into their session. They're probably going to go to state. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
We still do workouts in season. We have PRs that have already happened as much as yesterday. We had PRs in the squat, bench, and DL. I cut back in DLs. We didn't do DLs yesterday. We had a time.
Yeah.
But amazing. From when I started to now, I see an amazing turn with these kids.
And there's always ups and downs with it. But have you found that that's a generational thing too? So not a generational thing. I mean, with the classes. So, if one senior classes, they've been in the league since freshmen and they really have that hardcore.
Correct.
Buy-in.
You are correct. In 5 more years, it might be different.
Yeah.
It's definitely generational, or should I say, I call it seasonal.
Yeah.
Year to year will be different based upon what you have.
Right.
And this year was our best year ever with everything.
Yeah.
Our best year ever. And next year, I hope it's going to be the same, if not better. But it's definitely based upon the attitude of the athlete.
Yeah.
If they want to be pushed or not.
Yeah.
And if they're not going to be willing to do anything, a coach can say you're sitting the bench, but that athlete's, it's going to affect the outcome of attitude amongst the players. I mean, there's so many topics to talk about based upon leadership in the weight room and how it carries over, as Tim Tebow said. The leaders in the weight room are leaders out in the field.
How do you develop leaders in the weight room?
Good
or
question.
can you develop leaders in the weight room? Is it really more of a who's got it, who doesn't?
Yes. I could talk to you for an hour about that one.
I got all the time.
Quickly, leadership comes from either you have it or you don't.
Okay.
It'll start from the very top. You either have it or you don't.
Really?
Then you start coming down. Some guys want it, and they have to work at getting it. In other words, they have to make their voice present. They got to go ahead and deal with maybe the top guy getting jealous of him now. They're willing to step up into that role as being a leader. Come down some more. I've dealt with people, and even girls, that I tell them, okay, I want you to lead stretches. I don't want to really do that. Come on, you can do it.
Right.
You give them step-by-step leadership to little points. And you base it upon what you know your top guy will do, but then you want to make sure that everybody else can get a voice. Yeah. So I have people lead stretches. Yeah. I have people not lead stretches. I have people break it down after the workouts. Okay, I want you to do it now. Come on. Yeah. So you go step by step because everybody has to strive to be a leader, not a follower.
Right.
But you're always going to have followers, and that's fine because they have to learn how to lead. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And you'll have your leaders leading it. But that is the steps I see. You either have it or you don't.
Sure.
You can find it if you work hard at it.
Right.
It's going to be really, really tough, but you can still do it.
Yeah.
Rock bottom, nothing. You have those people that don't want to do anything at all.
Do you think that's more of an introvert versus an extrovert thing? Or do
Yes.
you think that's more
100%.
Okay.
100%. You either have it or you don't. Now, I have dealt with some kids over the years that were completely introverted.
Mm-hmm.
By the time they get done,
Yep.
I had one guy come to me. He was a father. What have you done to my son?
Yeah.
Well, this one kid was so introverted that he actually now is a doctor.
Right.
You see, and is insecure about himself.
Mm-hmm.
So you get him through that. Then you might have issues at the family house where a kid could be getting abused verbally. And he don't feel good. She don't feel good about themselves.
Right.
And sometimes they'll open up to us and tell us that. And then you got to make believers in them.
Right.
And you got to get them through. So the strength trainer really has to know how to deal with these situations. Again, I said earlier, to save the person, to make them not give up on life or give up in the weight room. Yeah. But the weight room is much bigger. Well, should I say life is much bigger than the weight room.
Right. This
helps prepare you for life and the games that happen out there in the real world.
Oh yeah, I've said this so many times on our social media with the articles and all that, is that getting better at weightlifting isn't really about getting better at weightlifting. It's about getting better at being a human. Like learning how to lift weights is more about learning how to learn than it is about the actual skill of getting better at weightlifting. And that learning how to learn process develops and builds on itself. And as you grow as an athlete, you also grow as a human.
100%.
Hopefully, ideally.
Yeah. This is the only area that I know of in the realm of any sporting event that is able to not just build you mentally and develop your character, but it builds you physically. Mm-hmm. And no other sport does that.
Nothing does.
Nothing does. Now, some running can do that. Some running can build those legs really good, but there's still workouts involved with that.
Yeah.
And then there'll be a cap off where you get too old and you can't do these things anymore. Right. But you can still work out. Yeah. And you can still get the body. So this is the only area that prepares you, what I would call for a 2-for-1 deal. Mm-hmm. You get the real world experience through all the things that doubts are going through your head. I can't do it more. Yes, you can. All right, focus now on tightening your abs and breathing properly. Right. Carries over in the world. Focus on paying your bills. But this builds the physical body. Mm-hmm. And that's the number one goal in life, is to somehow beat death. And old age is dying. Yeah. Old age is dying. Right. And try to live as long as we possibly can in good health, in perfect health if possible. And it starts all around the world, in every single weight room, every single gym, every single small gym, big gym, whatever it is. Grab something and do it and make the heart beat and make the muscles grow. Because we all start losing it, and you got to find a way to keep those muscles in shape, you know?
And that's, I think what you said there, where like old age is dying, that is really interesting, because old age doesn't necessarily mean a number. It's just how capable are you. Mm-hmm. And if you build a solid foundation as a youth and with kids of training every day, and just, it's a habit. It's not even something you have to do. It's just what you do.
Exactly.
That will carry over until they are 70, 80, 90. But if they don't do it past high school, that old age is going to come a lot quicker than somebody who lifts for their entire life, in the sense of being capable for a longer period of time.
100%. 100%. Yep.
Let's see. Next question. What do we got? Oh, I had somebody ask me on Instagram. They said, this is probably an easier one. How do you keep track of everybody's PRs?
Oh, I write them down.
Write them down?
Yeah.
Okay.
They write them down. I put them in charge of doing the work. I'm not going to do it for them.
Everybody.
And then that teaches them that they got to balance their checkbook as they get older. Right. They got to know what's coming in, what's going out. So some places have their touch screens and they do a thing. I don't want to go that route. Yeah. We couldn't afford it anyhow, but I want them to understand with a pen and paper and write it down. Then you can start seeing What is it? What's 30% of 200, right?
Yeah.
And then they start doing percentages. They start realizing things. So they track their progression every week, and sometimes they don't. And then I'll sneak over and ask them, "What are you doing? Let me see your book. Where's the date? There's no date in here."
Yeah.
And then you hold them accountable for that also. But my athletes, they write everything down. So when I make videos, I say, so-and-so's going for a 5-rep PR. How do I know that? Well, he's written it down.
Yeah, he's got it in the book.
And he got it down. He knows what he has to get, she has to get, and they get it.
Okay.
They feel amazed by it.
I love
If they don't get it,
Yeah.
you encourage them and say, hey, you're not going to always get PRs.
Right.
But it's the attempt that matters.
I always say if we could PR anytime we called upon ourselves to be able to PR, everybody would be able to squat 1,000 pounds.
You have huge numbers off
That'd
the
be great,
wall.
wouldn't it?
Limitations are awesome because it checks who you are in life.
How many? Okay. So this kind of relates to one of the athletes that I'm working with right now. How many people do you think are more motivated by success versus their failures? What do you
guesstimation through all the kids that I've trained, and they're young.
Yeah.
They're young. It'll change as you get older. But in the adolescent world, let's just say 19 and under to, and let's hit the 19, 18, 17 categories. At this age, I would say about 95% are driven by their successes rather than their failures.
Okay. Interesting.
Because they don't have the experience yet to understand that you, and I tell them this all the time, that you are successful if you work.
So you're reframing what failing is. Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
In other words, the person, I guess some visitors back here, coaches, the person that actually goes through a failed attempt at something, then knows how to come back and attack it again.
Right.
And they may have failed it 5, 6 more times, but you have to continue to get back up and make the attempt. Yeah. And success comes through working.
Right.
That's it. But the fun part is, can you get PRs? You know, people are going to get PRs, but everybody's different how they can get them as often as they can get them. And then that will come through the equation of believing, and they're all happy when they get home. Who isn't happy, right? Success. But I do tell all the kids, because then you start to program and think that they're always going to get PRs. Yeah. So that's going to be always nice. No, you've got to know how to handle when you don't get the PR, because life really is full of more rejection than acceptance. And that's how I teach all of my kids. You've got to say, hey, this is what it is. Take it, work your way through with it, and continue to press on.
Right. What do you think an athlete is better if they are more motivated by their failures rather than their successes? What do you think? Which one leads to a
I would absolutely say that an athlete would be more prominent to have more success by their successes at this level in high school. 100%.
Success builds on success.
Yeah, and again, that would carry over to when they get older, then they realize, hey, you know, we're going to start having some issues. Yeah. And at that age, they have got to be told by a coach who told them this to remember what they said. As my coach, John McMahon, maybe he can watch it, he's still up there in New York, I always use his one-line phrase. I can remember it when he told us in 1988, we were going through a horrible session. Oh, my goodness, double sessions up in New York State. Oh, hated it. And during one of our breaks, he said, boys, if you think what I put you through was bad, where do you go to the real world? And I always use that analogy today because he taught me that. Yeah. Fast forward to when the athlete gets older and they fail at things. Yeah. I hear his voice, almost like Rocky. Come on, you, suck it up, you. You know, and you hear these, and these are real things, even though even Hollywood has them. They're real things. I hear Coach McMahon tell me something, or I hear Mark Callinger tell me something, or one of my other coaches tell me something, and they inspire me. So, as I said earlier in the podcast, we are crossbred to what we were taught that works, and we continue to press on. So your question is, I would say most athletes are going to go into a game feeling good, knowing that they have done good in the weight room.
Right.
And very few at this level are going to go into a game feeling confident if they didn't do something successful.
Sure.
Yeah, 100%.
That's something I've been kind of interested in recently because I've had, athletes that have had tough competitions, but it almost seems like when they have their best competition, and this is for weightlifting, right? So they're not doing this for another sport. This is to get good at weightlifting. They will have their best competition, and usually following the best competition is just a big taper where motivation is down because they did the thing. I think I've seen athletes be more willing to crush it in the gym and be super motivated when they had their worst meet. Maybe they're used to those wins, and when they have a big meet that just doesn't go well for them, they seem to be way more motivated to get in and really try and do their best because they want that win again.
I have many that do that here. Now, after a failed, you say meet, after a failed or a loss.
Yeah.
Especially if it's a loss that it was very close. Right. That hurts the most.
Yeah.
Some athletes were back in the next day.
Okay.
Most were not.
Oh, interesting.
Most were still kind of souping up all the sorrow. And I always tell them, suck it up, get back in, and get refocused.
Yeah.
And then they come in different ways as they are able to bear that burden. Mm-hmm. And then I work with them. Mm-hmm. And all of them, I tell them the same thing. The person that comes in next day, awesome. You're on the right step. Right. Person that comes in 10 days later, listen, man, you've got to accept this in life, and you can't go and hide.
Right.
And then maybe medium. Okay, 3 days back, you're back in, good. But let's make sure we don't lose focus on. Right. So again, each step is approached differently. And you're going to have most of your athletes and lifters, if they have a failed attempt at something, they feel good about what they did, especially the lifters, because they're already trained. They're going to come back automatically. But the athletes a little bit differently. Yeah. Because their mindset is not necessarily in the weight room.
Mm-hmm. It's the sport.
It's the sport. Yeah. So it's a whole different crossbreed of a cognitive approach to failed success.
Yes. Yeah. That's such an interesting way to put it because we're talking about winning and losing as they're different things. But for you, your athletes, when they win and lose, isn't in the weight room. It's on the field. Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit different of an idea, but I think we're still talking about winning and losing the same thing, and that we can have a win in the weight room and on the field, right? But a win in the weight room is going to help lead them to success on the field.
Yes. And then I always tell the kids too, when you lose a game, you're still successful. Yeah. Because you have to learn how to accept that. Yeah. You can't always win. Oh, yeah. If you always win, then you don't know how to lose.
And learning how to lose is not that you want to lose all the time, but learning how to lose is putting you in a situation where you have to learn from what you did and why you lost, and then be able to grow from that.
Technically, there's no losers in a one-on-one. No. Because every athlete, competitor that's out there, they are competing. Again, like I said, you are successful if you work. Uh-huh. And I tell all the kids this. You're going to have a winner, yes, and the loser category, yes. You might have a 10 bracket number where you're down here. Some days I don't bowl good, and it drives me nuts. Yep. But I always go in my timeout and refocus and just continue to press through the mind. With a young athlete, same principle. And you've got to have them refocus, and they've got to accept it. Now, no one wants to lose, and there are games out there. Just take up maybe a basketball game. There could be games where they might lose by 1 or 2, 10 games in a row. That's tough.
Sure.
And then you got to approach that differently. Yeah. But again, same model. You definitely lost the game, but you are not losers in life. Right. You are successful automatically.
Sure.
Automatically.
Sure.
It does hurt, though, when you lose. Oh, it does hurt. Oh. But again, that's part of the growing pains of life. Yeah. And you got to accept it and move on with it.
This one's a question this one is more for coaches. So as a strength and conditioning coach, or this applies to weightlifting coaches too, I find all the time that I'll see, because I mostly work with youth athletes, I'll see other teams that do work with youth athletes, and those youth athletes are just studs. They are killing it all the time. Yeah. But then they start to kind of peter out a little bit. They get injured. It almost seems like they are pushing too hard to be the best weightlifter possible as a youth without any consideration for how they're going to be when they are a senior lifter or a youth lifter or a master's lifter, without any consideration for that. And, for me, I see this all the time. Like, my athletes are good. They're doing great, but they're not beating those like 15-year-old youth Olympians. But I know that long-term this is going to be the best option for them down the road, right? Is they're going to peak at the right time, which is about 24, 25, 26 for weightlifting.
Mm-hmm.
And then they're also going to be durable after that. Like, once they retire, are they still going to be able to be normal humans? Like, not injured, not hurt, not psychologically damaged from how they trained in the sport. That's a big one.
And physically.
Yeah. Oh man. How do you cope with, or how do you, I don't know if this is even something that you see, but how do you handle knowing that, like, while this may not seem like it's the best thing for the athlete compared to what other people are doing, how do you handle knowing that it is and still having to kind of just push through? Performance? What do you mean?
How are they able to do something if I give them something to do? Numbers don't lie.
Okay.
So they have to be someplace near the PRs,
right,
and they can't be getting blown off.
Yeah.
Then I got to examine what I'm doing,
right,
and then re-examine it upon them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's performance. So that's my best answer.
Okay.
At my level. And then performance would be in the weight room as far as numbers.
Right.
And I always tell the kids also, you're not going to have, as you said, your studs.
Right.
That's rare.
Yeah.
But you'll have, and they'll start coming down. You're going to have a massive pool of people that are going to be MEHs.
Mm-hmm.
Meh.
Yeah.
But those mehs can start generating personal records.
Uh-huh.
And that's what I do with the kids. I'll videotape somebody bench pressing 75 pounds. Okay, here we go. A month later, 80 pounds in the bar. Let's go. And that makes that kid feel amazing. Mm-hmm. Now, that kid knows he's going to get blown out. I tell most of my kids and boys lifting, you guys are going to get killed. But stay focused on one thing.
It's a strong motivator right there.
Stay focused on one thing.
Yeah.
Personal records.
Mm-hmm.
If you get 5 pounds PR, you are successful.
Yeah.
That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And they accept that.
Yeah.
And that's the goal in life, is to get them to understand is each person is only able to progress at their level at a certain volume of it. Good. As long as they progress.
Mm-hmm. That's
all that matters.
Okay. Cool. Let's I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up there, unless you got anything else that you want to talk about.
No, I think for I guess all of your viewers, let me think here.
My viewers, your viewers.
My viewers too.
Yeah.
Well, I personally love this. This is definitely something that I've taken to heart as a young boy. It was definitely a motivational thing. I've always been self-motivated. No one has ever had to tell me to get in the weight room, lift that weight. Mm-hmm. I've never been yelled at one time for anything as far as being lazy or cutting back. That was me. And then I carried over all those years into the weight room of just myself to when I started, people were reaching out to me even then. Hey, what's that? Or what does that work? Or how does it? Because being a power lifter, you do, half squat, rack squats. You do unconventional motions and movements and a range of motions in the gym. Mm-hmm. Like, what's that? Well, for strength training, it's different. So I always had these questions. So people started to ask me questions at a young age. And then I learned that it became almost less about me and more about helping others as I got older.
Right.
And to this job here.
Yeah.
And you share experiences through experiences that you had, good and bad. And those experiences are given to make other people excel in something so simple as a bench press or something. Right. But again, it carries over to the real world of how you're going to excel in a situation, how you approach these situations. And that was just me going from a young boy up until right now, presently. I never thought about coaching. I never have. It was always about me doing my thing, lifting and being the strong guy and making people look at me in the weight room because I was so strong, and I had that many times. Mm-hmm. Now it's me watching them and me seeing their technique and their form and pushing them through what they're going to go through. So in my own personal world, I've always been a believer about all things are possible, a big believer in keeping your hand to the plow and just keep working and don't stop. No matter what you might be going through, a tough time, that's the biggest deterrent is a tough time.
Yeah.
Find that weight room and push yourself. And you haven't even got to go crazy. Just go through, move the body, do things that you know will make you feel better. This will always add years to your life, always. Except if you get some strange thing that might happen. God forbid, cancer or something that's out of our control to a certain degree.
Right.
Modified by what we eat, what we do, free radicals, all that kind of theories about what we breathe into our body. But the fight, like I said in the beginning of the podcast, was how can you live as long as you possibly can? Healthy, free, and strong. Being able to walk upright with no cane or a wheelchair.
Right.
And I look at all those people that do that because they were young one time and they were probably playing kickball when they were age 7 or 8, 9, maybe baseball player when they're 13, 15, and maybe college. And they get old. And it's tough. It's something that you don't want to accept. But we do face the reality of it. But there's ways that you can slow it down. And it comes through experience, sharing the ideas, what works, what doesn't. That's the biggest thing. Yeah. They don't ask me, are you qualified or certified per se? They ask me what works. And I tell them through my experiences what has worked for me. Right. And what I've seen other personalities, body types, ectomorph, mesomorph, endomorph. I've seen it and I've put it to the test. This is what works. Right. And to the person at age 70, I don't have experience with that yet. Yeah. But I've seen others through social media and what they have given to us to understand. Impressive. The walks of life are so amazing that each of us have to go through, but yet we are only as strong as each other that are willing to help each other out and motivate each other to get through whatever challenges we have. And some people have some pretty bad challenges. It could be tough. And especially when people die suddenly, you're not ready for it. That's tough. And 9/11 affected me the most. I've had some close family members die that affected me in my performance in the weight room. But 9/11.
No. Oh my God.
You're full of memory?
Yeah. Hold on, I got a computer for this.
I know where I can pick up at.
Boom.
That day was tough on me because I was watching TV when it was going down and I was like brokenhearted. I saw the people falling out of the buildings. It was very tough. Of course, the news is trying to like pull them away, but you could see that I was crying. Yeah. I didn't even know them. And I couldn't go in the weight room for, I think it was 3 to 4 days. I felt guilty that, I'm doing something better for myself and all these people are mourning and grieving. That affected me the most. Yeah. But I got back in there again quickly after that. And I went back on it again. So don't give up. We understand if there's an issue that you're going through, some type of issue, but please don't give up and always find a way to make it happen rather than say why you can't make it happen. The greatest thing in the world, folks. Stay as young as you possibly can. Greatest thing in the world.
That's awesome. Strong finish right there. Cool. So let's see. Where can people reach out to you with questions? How do you can
reach out to my email, and it's lowercase al 1990 at comcast.net, and you can just add title it anything you want, and that'd be probably the best way to get a hold of me. And I won't give you my phone number yet, but the email will be the best thing to go ahead and to get a hold of me.
Perfect. Great. You guys can find me on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube and TikTok at Big Ben Strength and Conditioning. Twitter, Big Ben Strength and Conditioning. I think that's all of them. So go ahead and hit me up. If you guys like this podcast, go ahead and share it with somebody that you think is going to find it useful. All right. See you guys next time. Cool.
That was great.